Shit, my dad taught me.
Welcome.
Let's go.
On the mic,
gentlemen.
even.
On the mic. We spent the money, bro.
Impressive.
We're ready. So I have to introduce our guest and let me start. I'll do the whole thing. You ready, bro? I practiced.
I'm ready.
Reginald, Matthew, Michael, Wesley, Adamantium, Green, Werner, Lochner, Gray.
Correct.
Welcome.
Fuck
Nailed
me.
it. And then there's some AKAs here. AKA Reginald Adamantium Gray. It's the abbreviated. AKA Reggie.
Or Reg.
Or Reg. Okay.
Yeah.
Add it to
I
it.
chose the name because all three versions are cool. Reginald is very regal. Reggie is a little urban. I love Reggie Noble. Shout out to Redman. And Reg is like, what we're hitting now, like a 40-something-year-old distinguished gentleman, but not of the royal type. That's Reginald. Yeah.
Relatable.
So how many names is that? Like
9.
9?
It's 9.
Wow.
And it's
Nine
the
names.
hugest pain in the butt. I was with a gal and we were talking about, we didn't want to do the usual thing, getting married and taking the male's last name. I was like, so why don't we just like make up a name?
So you were like, I'll just take all your sisters' names and brothers' names. Like,
But she was like, because we were going to change the last name. So I was like, well, I might as well. I don't want to be named Matthew. It's very common. I'm a bit of a unique card. So I wanted to go with Reginald. And then I was like, well, I might as well just change all the middle names too. And she was like, okay, it's perfect because when you do legal documents, you can just put the middle name and the other ones can just be for fun. And I was like, okay, great. So I changed the name, went to get my legal documents, and they looked at me and they're like, no, you need everything on there. And I was like, oh. So I go to the passport office. They had to call a branch manager over, and they're like, we don't know what to do with this. So they had to call another branch, and they're like, okay, you're going to love this. You're going to need a special page in your passport with all your names notarized. They're going to love you at the border. And I get the same thing every time. They're like, why did your parents do this? I'm like, I didn't.
I mean,
And then they're like, who are you running from? Every time. I'm like, no, I just did it for fun. I think why we don't get to choose our own name? That's very bizarre.
so it's one first name, one last name, and like 7 middle names?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Reginald Gray is my first and last. And then the rest of them are family. The middle one, I'm a huge Wolverine fan. Popping the claws here. Everyone thinks they're bullets. They're Wolverine's
Sound
claws.
effect, Miles. Thank you.
I got it. So adamantium. I didn't want to be too on the nose and go with Wolverine. So the mythical metal adamantium from the Marvel universe.
I should put that together. There you go. Yeah, because I guess born Matthew Lochner, which is, of course, as I know you, back in our Burlington High School days. And then what? So that's a nice name. but then life goes on and you do something like that. How fun is that?
It was fun.
So at the border, what's the reaction for most people when you're like making an introduction? We just met for the first time. What do you say?
I've learned at the border, I think colloquial, if we're just hanging out, then I'll give you the full story. But at the border, I've learned not to say that I made it up. I was just, we went through recently, I went through with my wife, we went over to Washington State, and I knew it was coming. And he's like, oh my God, yeah, your parents really had a hate on for you. They're really making your life different. And I'm like, yep. I don't give them the whole story that I
feel
changed.
bad for me. Let me go.
And it did. It works. Whenever you do that, they're just like, let you through. But the Canadian government, when I get pulled over by the police, they can do a background check and they see I changed my name.
Yeah.
And then right away, they're like, why'd you do that? Are you in the witness protection program? Who are you running from? What'd you do? I'm just always like, no, it's for fun, yo. It's for fun.
You're like, well, it's not easy to hide when I got 9 fucking names on my list. Like, it doesn't really keep quiet.
That's true. It's not totally inconspicuous.
Yeah.
But it's a pain. And I just, was Matthew. I thought it was kind of boring. So I went with Reginald. And then Gray was just kind of whatever. He just chose a name with the X. Yeah. And then, I still have Lochner in there, which is my birth last name.
Grace from 50 Shades for sure.
Well, it was funny. I used to live on the road and somebody came up with I wish I came up with this, so clever, 50 States of Gray. It was such a great idea when I lived down in the States because I was traveling around all the southern states with my trailer. So that was a pretty good idea.
Yeah, that's a good one. And then if you're at a cocktail party, you just say Reggie?
It's just Reggie. Reggie's my favorite. I think it's Reggie Jackson, Reggie Noble, like I said. It's a badass name.
There you go.
Love it.
There you go. So that's great, man. So I want to do a couple things. Usually we start off with a ChatGPT introduction. It's kind of our rolling gig on this.
Sure.
I wanted to start with the name thing though, because I feel like a lot of people will see that in the caption and have to ask some questions. But
fucking ChatGPT asked questions.
So maybe I'll start. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do a ChatGPT and tell me if the internet got it right. So it starts by saying Reginald, Reggie, Adamantium Gray, so kind of the 2/3 of the name, is a dynamic creative professional with an extensive experience in the entertainment industry. Known for his versatile talents as a film editor, actor, and public speaker, Reggie has contributed to notable projects including the documentary series Real Slide and from the film Water Nuts. So far, so good.
Wow.
All right.
I didn't know the internet knew this about me.
They got you, man. Beyond his work behind the camera, Reggie is a passionate advocate for storytelling as a transformational tool. As a featured speaker at events like the Revolution Convention, he shares his insights into the power of creativity, resilience, and the human experience.
Wow.
Not bad, right? And then here. Reggie's diverse career reflects his deep belief that stories, whether on screen or in real life, shape who we are and who we become. His approach to both film and speaking is centered around authenticity, emotional truth, and inspiring others to find their voice.
This is trippy.
It's good, right?
Yo, that digital brain is terrifying.
It sees you.
It sees you.
And the storytelling thing. So I had to, that took me back because when you reached out, I thought, like, how's it been? Like, because you and I think the last time we saw each other was 25 years ago.
And who was our law teacher? I remember you the best from law. So
The last time you guys hung out, Miles wasn't even born yet.
Yeah, that's right. Miles wasn't even born.
You were just an apple in your parents' eye.
Fuck, time flies.
Jesus.
You in law class, I remember watching you.
You
and
literally could say you have tattoos on your ass older than Miles is.
Wow. Yeah. 22 years ago is when I started. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's kind of creepy.
there it goes.
You had so much charisma.
Oh, thanks, bro.
I remember sitting and watching and being like, man, I wish I could command a room like that.
No,
guy. Truly, I genuinely mean that. It was like, who was our teacher? I can't, Kiko?
Oh, you know what? And I have to remember the last name. And I should remember the last name because that was the classroom I think you and I might have been sitting in when 9/11 happened.
Yes.
If you go back. And I always remember thinking to myself, this is exactly where I was on September 11th when it happened. And it was his class. So
Mr. Pope?
I
can't remember.
Yeah, it's going to come to me after.
But you would come up and do these like mock trials. And Chris you were the one that was like, yo, this guy should go into like drama or law because it was a law class. So.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's what you and I always had in common, right? Is like I love stories. I love being a part of them and telling them. And you started that early on because you were one of the first guys I knew that was creating content before content creation was spoken the way that it is today, right? Like, so go back to high school. The first piece of content that you did, I think it was a mini series. Would have been a comedy, but that's how it started, right?
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. Well, it all started because my sister was creative. She was an artist and illustrator, went to Sheridan College. So she had a Mac computer, and my dad was a filmmaker and obsessed with cameras. So he had a video camera. And I was the only one at Nelson High School who could take the video camera, put it on the computer. Not the only one, but the main one. Maybe.
Flex a little.
Yeah, a little bit.
I remember
I felt
you being
bad
the
about
only
that.
one.
Taylor
Yeah.
Kingston was really talented as well. So big up to him. Not that I was talented. Anyways, I was like one of the few. Nowadays, everybody has a camera in their pocket and can edit a feature film on their phone. But back then, it was extremely rare. So I would do everybody's school projects. And I was a very piss poor student. Like I had no right to move on to post-secondary. I was high D's, low C's. I was probably my MO. But I started to do the filmmaking thing and was like, yo, is this a job? This is real? Okay, we're going to pursue this. Then I just got, a lot of practice doing other people's school projects.
Never finished any of your own. Just
Well, that explains the grades. Yeah. Oh, I was always more performative because even in English, I had to get a certain mark to move on. And I was like, Miss Fuderich, please, can you let me and James McBain do an interpretive dance of Oedipus Rex? And that happened in spandex. It was quite ridiculous. But yeah, my dad and my
Miles
sister
might be able to cut a piece of the video in there.
Oh, good. It's online, so yeah, I mean, go for it. Bleach blonde hair and all. But it was a really beautiful story because my grades were so low, but I found something I actually liked. And my dad was a professor at Sheridan College back in like the 70s or 80s. And he was actually passing at the time at the end of high school. So he had pancreatic cancer and was on his way out. And on his deathbed, he wrote a letter to Sheridan and was like, please, for the love of God, somebody has to give this kid a chance. and I got rejected from all post-secondary. He ended up passing May 2nd, so right before exams, and didn't have to write exams. I got exempt from them. And then on his deathbed, though, I got to show him that I got into Sheridan, so his alma mater. He actually went there like academically and then taught there later. It's where he met my mom. So it's all very
Full circle.
Yeah. And like the fact that when he was passing, it gave me kind of propulsion to the next stage of my life. And I got to go to film school, which I had no right to get into.
Yeah. What was that like once you got there? Like, cause that's, you were a true creative and now there's some structure. Now there's
Exactly. Yeah. It was nice just because I found something I cared about. And it does make me look at, like, I know we need standardized testing and we need a bit of a scaffolding of sorts, but man, I look at my story and I'm like, I didn't give a flying fadoo.
Passion and talent can outweigh marks.
Yeah,
for sure.
And then getting into film school was like, I was interested. I was having fun. I was playing with model trains. I'm like, this is going to be my career. This is so cool.
Your fucking geography mark didn't matter.
Exactly. Exactly. It didn't matter who, conquered whichever country, which year. It was like, we're just making stories and telling stories. And it was so much fun. And the people I met. And then once I got into the industry, I'm like, how is this a job? How am I making money doing this? This is hilarious. And it's been that now for 22 years, which is unbelievable. Like, I pinch myself every day. I'm so lucky. I'm so grateful. It's so much fun.
Well, and your dad must have been super proud, especially at that part of his life.
Yeah. I often think about if he could be here and how we'd work together. The biggest thing I think about with him are drones. He was a pilot. And, he spent a ton of money to make sure he could keep doing his pilot hobby. He wasn't a professional pilot, just for fun, like small planes. And he took me up a couple times, which was really special. But now I look at drones. Oh, my God. He would be obsessed with them. Like, I swear he would be flying. He would have multiple. That if one dies, he just takes the next one up. Because that, like, flying was his passion. He would take aerial photography, which back then costs, tens of thousands of dollars for some professional shoots, and he would just go up and do them on his own. But now doing aerial photography on drones is pennies on the dollar.
$3,000. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the one thing where I'm like, man, he would love. Anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. Technology has obviously entered this space long way from a MacBook and a, whatever your handheld was at that time.
Yep.
And then you've taken that on to some pretty cool things too. So I've watched a couple of I'm going to call them mini series, but pardon that if that's not the right term, but you've done, like, tell us about Reggie on the Road.
Yeah. I'm actually going to backtrack a little bit because I think you were kind of talking about Border Patrol that I did coming out of high school. Yep. And I think it's important to mention because I did a border show in 2005. And I'm saying it into camera because with what's going on right now in the world, I have a feeling a border show kind of comedy is going to pop up. And I'm going to be like, yo, I did that. So this is my timestamp. Boom. I did it.
Years ago.
Exactly. And there's been like a little bit of rumbling. I've had a couple like producers reach out to me and be like, didn't you do something a long time ago? And I'm like, okay, I better start like bringing it up so I have the copyright. So this is it formally. But yeah, Reggie from the Road was my biggest passion by far. So I was working in advertising for about 5 years and it was just draining me. Like, hey, McDonald's, I love you. You bought my house, but my God, you can only do so much. It was really weighing on me. So what I really wanted to do was make sweet documentaries about just regular people. So at the time I had bought a house in Picton in the county, about 2 hours out of Toronto. And I just wanted to make little documentary films.
You didn't want to do it on normal people first?
It's gotta be weird.
Picton first.
It's gotta be weird. The county, baby. And this was before the county blew up. This was like ground floor county. It was so cool back then. It still is cool. It's awesome. But I wanted to make little documentary films about just random people around the county. I ended up losing that relationship ended, and she and I owned a house and we owned a trailer. A little 1970 12-foot trailer, 70 square feet on the inside. And when relationships end, I'm very bad. Well, depending on how you look at it, I'm always like, you take everything. So I was like, you take the house, I'll take the trailer, and we good. So that's what happened. So I didn't get to make my documentaries in Picton. Instead, I was like, yo, this trailer is a glorified tent. I can't stay in Canada over the winter. I'm going down to Texas, and I'm going to make me some documentaries about nomadic people because I'm all of a sudden a nomadic person. I never even had an interest in it is the funny thing. People ask me, they're like, yeah, it just, and like, it was her dream. It was my ex's dream. She wanted a trailer. And I was like, okay, I've never even camped before. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I guess I'm doing this road life thing, which other people think about for years and have their mood boards, how they want to build things. I just was thrust into it.
Was it out of spite a little bit at first? Because like that was her dream. So you're like, fuck you. I'm going to go do this now.
No spite. It was just something like, part of the adventure.
Yeah.
So I went down to the States, and I remember the first day I went to do a documentary. I was like, hey, so I'm very bad like approaching people. I'm a peacock. People come to me. That's why the tattoos, the way I dress. Like, I'm a very introverted, shy person. So I need people to come here, and then I can open up. So I went down to the States. I was in North Carolina, and I was like, okay, so now I got to make these films. So I just like walk up to people. So I went to walk around the trailer park, Confederate flag, Confederate flag. And I was like, how do I? Like, I'm a liberal Canadian. How am I supposed to do?
Hey, you guys.
When in doubt, Goonies. Always. And then I was sitting painting a lightning bolt on my trailer, and this old man rode by on his bike, and he went, "Oh, I like your paint job." I was like, "Yeah, oh, you want to talk to me? Are we friends now?" We got chatting, and I was like, "Can I make a video about you?" He's like, "What kind of video?" His name's Michael, and he is like a surrogate father. He's so magical, and that was the start of it all. So we spent a day shooting just him living in his van, as he still does to this day. I'm off the road. He's way harder than I am. He lives in New Hampshire, and then he drives down to Florida in the winters. And yeah, we made this little film, and then I was kind of off to the races, and I got nominated for a Canadian Oscar, the Canadian Screen Awards. Nominated, never won it, but it was still a thrill. It was me. It was one of those things where they say a pleasure to be nominated, and you're like, yeah, right. But it was me with the money in my pocket up against Rogers, Telus, Vice, and I ended up losing. But it was like,
That's huge.
It was me by myself in my trailer up against these juggernauts. So yeah, I was nominated for Best Nonfiction Web Series, and it was the people I met. Like the road people are magical. It's a bit of a survival mentality. And yeah, you just kind of hop spot to spot. And how could you not do it? The internet's great. It brings together this wild tribe.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a good era.
What do you think your dad would think about like the path that you took, like after getting into film and pursuing what you wanted to go down?
Well, it was cool because my dad not only was he a filmmaker, photographer, that was his bread and butter. He was also an avid outdoorsman. Like, he would take a canoe into Algonquin and go out to an island and camp on his own. And when I was born, and this is the 80s, so gender roles, he was like, oh yeah, I got my son. I'm going to go camping with my son. I was a dud. I was a total, he still loved the hell out of me, but I would rather sit and play Nintendo all day, and I was deathly afraid of bees. Like, I wouldn't go out. They'd be like, Matthew, go outside and play. I'd be like, no, bees, terrified. So when I got on the road, I was all of a sudden camping every single day because my trailer was a glorified tent, like I said. So all of a sudden, I was living out my dad, like, I am my father. I'm like, holy shit, I'm outdoors. I'm a full-time filmmaker. Like, he would be so proud of me. So I wrote an article for a magazine being like, Dad, look at me. I live outside.
That's sick.
Sad I never got to do it with him. He never got to see me become a filmmaker. He never got to camp with me. But I don't know. It's just sweet to kind of move on, and it gets me at times just being like, wow, we can't stray too far from the genome.
Yeah. You are your father's son.
Exactly.
That's a real thing. You were speaking of being a little ahead of the curve on the creative too. Like, I feel like even that style, like when I was following along, watching you on this adventure, that's become a huge genre now of people that are buying Sprinter vans and going out and living that, well, at least not living, maybe a taste of that nomadic lifestyle. Right. And that's good content now. That gets huge distribution, but you were doing that years ago.
It blew up. We bought our trailer for $1,000. I've had people offer me like $12K for it now. Just on the monetary side of it, it's like how popular these things are, especially the vintage camping stuff.
You still have the same one?
Still have it. I literally have people pull up on my lawn being like, can I buy that from you? And I'm like, I just can't. I just picture it, even if it does get decommissioned because it's over 50 years old, and it's what is it they say, far from good from afar. Like, she's pretty from a distance. You get up close, you go, yo, you pulled this across North America? It didn't fall apart on you? But like, I picture it even as just a playground for the future kids, because like, it's a special, and it like carried me across North America. Like, it was my home. It's really special to me.
And I think there's a name on that trailer
Franny,
too, right?
After my grandma. That's right. And I ended up buying a 1975 pickup truck later named Wesley, which was my grandfather. He never pulled her. That was always the goal. But yes, it was a special time. And yeah, it's blown up. Like, and just because, especially down in the States, how are you supposed to live? You know, millennials trying to buy houses, Gen Z trying to buy houses. Doing the nomadic thing was like a cheat code. I would go down to my rent down in the States was $500 for 6 months because I just bought into a camp network where I could kind of hop from camp to camp. $500. I'm sure that doesn't exist nowadays, but shout out to Thousand Trails. It saved my butt. Canada's expensive to camp. We have all the space,
if
and yet
if you can get it too. Like
Exactly.
a lot of those campgrounds, they're doing releases, and if you're not on that morning, you're shit out of luck.
yeah, you got to give it to the Americans because they do like resort camping too, where you have all the amenities, everything works.
Yeah.
You come up to Canada, it's more rustic, which is great in its own way, but it's more expensive somehow and harder to get spots. Like, isn't this the second largest country in the world? You have plenty of space, but that was always frustrating. So when I'd come back to Canada, I'd usually stay in the GTA to make enough money to then do my 6 months down in the States and do kind of nothing. Just like make content, shoot videos, have a good time, meet up with people. It was so much.
What kind of speaking engagements and stuff do you do? It mentioned that you do a bunch of speaking and stuff.
So that's a really long story, the RevCon thing. So I think ChatGPT is taking something somebody said about me at some place because they're really sweet and blew it up to something it's not. When I was living on the road, I made a film from Reggie from the Road on this amazing brigade of people. They're so wonderful. So what they were doing, they were full-timers as well. And they would take their RVs and they would go to like mass shootings and mass trauma in the States, and they would just give counseling for free for people who had gone through hardcore trauma. Amazing human beings. And it was a really magical thing. So Michael, who I told you about, who I shot my first video about, he met them in Florida. And he was like, I think you need to go see this Reggie guy. And they were like, is he in need, like going through trauma? And he said the most beautiful thing that played out later in my life. They was like, not yet. Oh, gets me choked up even now, like magical. So anyways, these people called me and were like, we want to come meet with you. And I'm like, whoa, this isn't how this works. Like, I'm the thorn in people's sides making these films. Like, I come to you. And they're like, no, we need to come to you. So I was like, okay, I'm in Texas. They're in Florida. So I'll see you when I see you. And then I get a call a couple weeks later. Long story short, I got really bad cedar fever. It's Central Texas allergy, just strictly there. I just happened to be in at the wrong time. My face blew up. I was like, I got to get out of Texas. So I went up to Tennessee. And these people call me. They're like, hey, we're in Texas. Where are you at? And I was like, oh, sorry. I got this cedar fever thing. We'll do it another time. I'm sorry. I'm up in Tennessee now. They're like, we're on our way. It's like, yo,
Fucking dedicated.
these people are freakazoids. So they come up to Tennessee. We make the film. We just hang out for a few days. Really lovely, warm people. And we make the film. Actually, the first time I met them was hilarious. I tell this story so often because when people are like, what was the road like? This is my number one. So they're like, yeah, come over. We'll break bread. And I like that too. Like, I want to get to know my subjects before I make a film about them. Just get comfortable kind of thing. So like, yeah, come over. We'll make you some food. It'll be really fun. I was like, okay. So I show up at their trailer. I come over. It's at night. We're in middle of nowhere, Tennessee. Purple light is just bursting from this trailer. I'm like, oh, what the fuck is going on in there? So I open the door. Biggest hugs I've ever received. I was like, okay, cool. Just warm people. This is great. And they're like, here, take a seat. I was like, okay. So I sit down. And they all sit around me like in a kind of semicircle. I'm like, oh, this is kind of weird. And they're like, okay, Reggie, like, we just want to, since we've been on the road, we all decided we're going to collect rocks that we think best suit you. And I was like, okay. So then they went around and they're like, this is my rock for this. And they explained it to me. And I was just like, oh, that's very sweet. Thank you. And I just took these rocks and put them aside. And I was like, hey, can we just hang out now? And like, and they're like, no. We all sat and we had a moment to figure out the one word that best describes you, just from our praying and our feeling the universe. We want to share that one word with you each. And I was like, okay. So I sat here. And they went around the semicircle and each read their word to me and then handed me a piece of paper with the word on it and explained why that word. And I was like, okay.
The weirdest circle jerk ever.
That comes later. Yeah. At this point, I'm only 2 Viagra's in, so we need to let him kick it.
Poor guy's there with his pants around his ankles and he's got rocks everywhere. That's a weird
Everybody's
one.
getting their rocks off.
Well played.
Yeah.
That needed to be said.
Yeah, it needed to be said.
So that they just kept doing these like sharing moments. And I was like, yo, could we just kick it? And then they're like, we got one more gift for you. And I was like, oh shit, okay. So the guy gets up, he walks into the back, and he came out and presented me with a samurai sword.
Oh.
I was like, yo, you know your audience. Because before I had left to go on the road, I had a huge collection of like Japanese and Chinese weapons. I love like samurai culture and samurai swords. I had like 6 or 7 samurai swords, but I'm like, I can't bring these over the border. And they presented me with one and an American switchblade, like those illegal, like
The real ones, yeah.
which I love because I'm like very mid-century and like those are like
The butterfly knives, yeah.
yeah. So they gave me these weapons and I'm like, this is you. I just got rid of all mine. Thank you. And then we just kicked it and we had a great time. Anyways, to get back to what we're talking about, these people are very big deals, it turns out. You can never judge a road person because you're like, well, these people are poor. These people ran a giant convention in Las Vegas, and they're like, oh, we want to give you a thank you for having us in your video. I'm like, you don't have to. Like, the thank yous from me to you. Like, I want to make these films, and you did me a favor giving me your time. Like, it's kind of a symbiotic. And they're like, no, we need to thank you. Can you be at the Toronto International Airport at this time? I was like, okay. I was back in Canada at the time. So I went over to the airport. I went to get on my plane, first class. I was like, okay. I get on the plane, fly to Vegas, get off the plane with a guy holding my name on a placard. I'm like, everybody's always dreaming of this. So I'm like, I'm Reginald Gray. And he's like, all right, sir, to your limo. I was like, to my what? Like, I woke up in a trailer park this morning. And he's like, yeah, no, but the limo's been sent for you. Okay. So they guide me over to the limo. I get in the limo. I'm driving like, this is insanity.
This is going to be a great place to sleep.
Yeah.
Finally,
it's going to be warm.
What is this, 100 square feet?
They took me to this hotel on the Vegas Strip. And I went up to the concierge. They're like, oh, no, you have a private concierge. I'm like, this is insane. Go over to the private concierge, private elevator, up to my suite, the presidential suite. You could fit 25 of my, like, it was insane. There was one room where I could stand and I had a TV on every single wall. And I was just like, I could spin and watch like everything. And yeah, they were putting on this like they wanted to better business. Like they had a lot of business contacts, very long story short. And they were there to make business better. And they brought in all these American bigwigs and they're so sweet. They brought me in as like, they kept calling me a celebrity, but a Canadian celebrity. So nobody knew who I was. So all these American bigwigs were just like, "Ooh, who's this Canadian guy?" And they called me Sir Reginald, so they thought I was royalty. So I didn't really speak at this thing, but they were so sweet.
You were a guest at it,
yeah. I was a guest in like a celebrity poker tournament, and I was one of the celebrities. I was just like, they're so sweet and kind. But anyways, they treated me like royalty. But where it all comes back to is like this came from like hanging out in a trailer park in Hohenwald, Tennessee, and all of a sudden I'm a high roller in Vegas. Like, that was what the road was so magical for. These connections with people. And these are lifelong friends now. They now own a mountain in Washington. So if you ever want to go visit them, they own a mountain. It's pretty insane. So yeah, it was a fun experience.
That's crazy.
It's always neat to see how things snowball like that, eh? You just put yourself out there and be awesome and watch what happens, right? And I think that's the message too. Like if anybody's listening to this, because I'm sure you get a lot of younger guys and girls that are watching you and your path. And like I always remember going back to when we were teenagers, it was didn't give a fuck. Like put the content out. Wasn't perfect, didn't need to be. What's your methodology on that? Or what would you say to young guys watching?
I never had one, especially the trends. I've always marched to a beat of my own pan flute. Like I've just never watched the trends. I just do whatever I think.
You fucking started them. You all these TikTok dance videos. You did it when you were in 2001. Spandex and blonde hair.
I am the Harlem Shake. No, I don't have any. Like I don't. And I mean numbers wise, like I'm not a big deal. Like it's annoying at times. I look at it, I'm like, man, I was like a pioneer. Like when there was no algorithm and literally you would just post things and it would do well because people would see it because there was no filter, there was no sieve. So I don't have a recipe and I'm not that big. Like there were times definitely like through my emotional journey where I was like, damn, I should be a big deal. I'm funny, like I'm creative, but I just got to the point where I was like, the cards are kind of stacked against you. I'm just going to do what I think's funny. And through all my content creation, the whole key were the people, like the relationships I made, including being able to do this. Like that was what entertainment was for me, which was It was all about the people.
You were living it for your purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was frustrating at times. It's not like I'm sitting here being like, no, I don't care. I don't need the numbers. I don't care about being, worship. Like there were times where I was like, no, I want to be a celebrity. I want to be an influencer. So I did go through kind of dark days of being depressed and feeling rejected and like hurt by the algorithm and like being like, I deserve more. But I never abandoned just doing. The only times I ever did trends was to make fun of them. Like I would do like the pointing video, but I would make fun of the pointing video, or do a lip sync. But I'm making fun of the lip sync. Like, what do you people do? Why are we lip syncing to like these little clips? It's just I look at them. I'm like, what are we doing?
Remaking the remake of the remaked video just to get followers.
It's the like VHS of the VHS of the, and it just starts to degrade.
For sure.
So I don't know. Power to everybody. Like, get your numbers, get your thing. You figured out the algorithm. Good for you. I didn't want to take the time to learn the algorithm, and I think I was kind of penalized for that. But then I think in terms of my emotional wellness, I think it did me good because I had to kind of wrestle with that. I had to learn to be comfortable with myself and not succeeding. Like, I don't know. I question all this being a simulation often. And I think I'm supposed to always get to the kind of the line, but never break through. Like nominated for a Canadian Oscar, nominated to get like starting to be an influencer, but I just never get traction, like writing a TV show, getting it looked at by producers, but never getting it made. Like, so I've always been clawing and clawing and clawing, but I think I'm not supposed to make it, is how I rationalize it anyways.
Yeah. I think you are, dude. And I think that the path is like, I think the opportunity presents itself when you're ready for it, right? Like, and so much of this might just be your B-roll, to use a term, or might be your path, right? Because some of the shit you've put out, like the one that actually really got me was when you were on the East Coast in Canada and you bought a house. Tell me about that one.
Yeah. So my long-term goal was to own a house, old farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, Quebec. I speak zero French. Part of the journey. It'll just be fun. Like, I look at life as performance art, and I would just be like, it's another role for me to play as this French man.
Just figure it out.
Just figure it out.
Yeah.
But it was during COVID, right? So I was like, ooh, I probably shouldn't. And at the time, we thought COVID was extremely, who knows what this could be. So I was like, I probably shouldn't move to non-English speaking. I didn't want to get off the road yet. I probably had like 3 or 4 years left in me. I still wanted to keep going. But I just was like, I'm not going to be able to go back to the States for the foreseeable future, which was true. So I was like, I got to get off the road. I got to buy a house. I'm moving my dream up. I don't want to go to Quebec because it's potentially dangerous. I really wanted to go to New Brunswick, because I wanted to do an Airbnb in New Brunswick. To me made sense because you're going to get people from PEI, Nova Scotia, Maine, and like Quebec, Maine. So I tried. I tried this old church, and it was so beautiful. It was built in 1900. It had a dance hall, so dreamy. And I had I had to buy sight unseen. So I had a realtor go look at it, and she was like, Reginald, I don't believe in ghosts. I've been doing this for 30 years. That's the first place I've ever walked into that was evil. I'm not one of those people who's like, great. I was like, no.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, well,
I love that shit.
Yeah, people like you. I wish I was
My
like
wife
you,
would be
Jamie.
the opposite. She wouldn't buy a house that's on the same fucking block or vicinity of like a cemetery or something. But I'm like, fuck, I would move into a church, no problem, on a cemetery.
There are two different people. Chris, where do you lie in that?
So 100% believe in ghosts, and I've got 2 or 3 stories that cannot be explained.
Yeah.
Real things that I've seen with my own eyes.
Whoa.
So believe and have seen.
I hear you.
Which,
yeah, I've been there.
Rewind, like as a kid or whatever, like I always had, like, you get the feeling like it's, hair standing up on the back of your neck or little, stomach feeling or whatever. Kind of always had that. But then we had moved up north to a lodge, and it was absolutely haunted. 100%. And I'll tell the story quick, I want to hear more about yours, but so move up there with the family. We knew that we had been purchasing the resort from a widow, and that was about all that we kind of knew at the time. Started going up there, and I had, there was a main lodge. There was a staircase up to the apartment. So the apartment was above the complex where everybody would. And it had a kitchen, and it had a nice little, like it was a lodge, right? Very welcoming. We did small weddings. We did small gatherings and those kind of things. there was a kitchen on the main floor that I had to walk by every night because I had a puppy at the time. Shout out Tatum, my little boxer pup. So he'd have to go out, right? So we'd always walk by, and the first couple times he would sit and stop and lock eyes on something. And sometimes his little butt would start to go, like he'd start to wag his tail, which was, if you've had a puppy, you always know that that's them being, friendly, greeting. And then we started to hear things, and then we started to whatever. And I figured out that if I walked by it at a certain pace and kept my eyes forward, I could see somebody.
Just out the peripheral.
Yeah, just out the peripheral. And I could see, and it was a man, and I could see that they were probably a tall guy, 6 foot something, and kind of heavy set. But if you looked or you stopped, there was nothing there. So I started to kind of make it a bit of a game where I would walk by and try and look a little bit more and try and look a little bit more. And this one night I walked by, and it was the first time that they weren't actively working in the kitchen. They kind of had their head turned, and I got just enough of a glimpse to see his face. And it was like this weird moment where I'm like, I felt like he saw me and I saw him, and we had this like weird moment. And so this was freaking my wife out because she used to see the same things, and like it was kind of this awkward thing. But the energy was always really positive. Like the energy was, they're working in the kitchen. They're trying to get something done. They're trying to that was the vibe. So life goes on. About a month after I had the time where I saw his face, there was a newspaper that showed up, and it was from the local newspaper. And there was a picture on the front, and I went, that's the guy.
No way.
100% that's the guy. And that's all I said. And then we read the article and went through it, and sure enough, got to the bottom, and it was citing his story. It was kind of like an in memoriam piece. And sure enough, his last name was the same last name from the widow that we bought it from.
Yeah.
At any point, did you feel fear, or was it?
No, he was always the energy I would put it towards is he was trying to get something done. Like he was working in the kitchen to get something ready. So I made some friends up there, and we ended up talking and found out that he passed away, and he passed away there, like within 10 feet of where I was seeing him. Yeah. And then the story goes, and I kind of knew it and then learned more about it. He was a chef. And so his job was to work in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Did your kids ever see anybody?
So didn't have kids at the time.
Okay.
No, just the pup and actually my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife.
Did she see anything?
Yeah.
Yes, she did.
Yeah,
okay.
she used to there was no chance she's going to let him out without me. Like just wouldn't do it. Like once we were tucked in for the night, if he had to go outside, that was my job.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
But it is amazing how when we're confronted with those paranormal things, it doesn't strike like one would think. I saw a UFO once down by my place.
Yeah.
And somebody said to me, so was it scary? I was like, no, it was awesome. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
It was wicked.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be scary. I haven't seen any paranormal stuff. But to bring it back, I ended up not going to New Brunswick. My friend James McBain, who you might remember from
of course.
high school,
Yeah,
he lives in Nova Scotia. He moved back because he went to Acadia, and he said, hey, look in Nova Scotia. And I was like, too far on the edge of the earth if I still want to be nomadic. And then I was like, fine, I'll look, because the New Brunswick thing fell through. Mm-hmm. The first one that came up was the house that I bought it sight unseen, 127 acres, 1850s old farmhouse, beautiful, but similar to what you're saying, like definitely haunted. But I've never seen anything, but I only get good vibes, only. And it's interesting because the former owner reached out to me with an email just being like, just so you know, here's a bunch of stuff about the house, including it was the hospice for the area. So they had the death room. He's like, if you ever feel any spirits, it's this room, because that's where all the laborers in the area would go to die. Because my house was the original house where they then built around it. And whenever anybody was sick or old or dying, they would go there. And he's like, but it was always good people. It was a happy place, and I don't feel anything. But the weird thing is, under my stairs has been boarded up, so drywalled over. If you knock on it, you can hear that there's a door there. And apparently the great-grandfather's toys are in there. And I'm like, why'd you board it up? And if I open that and there's a fucking Ouija board, you can buy my house the next day.
Yeah, I had a couple of those experiences too, but on the scary side and on the not. So I totally believe in that shit. And even on the scary side, I don't really know. I've never really gone deep into this, but I just believe that those souls, whether it's a scary situation or one like yours, I just feel like they're looking for an answer or looking to finish something still before they can move on to the next chapter. So I embraced every one of those situations. Like it was just like, hey, like whatever I can do to help you. So I just went into it, other than the one situation where I was like 10 and my brother was like 7. We were scared shitless, but we figured it out over the next couple of years what it was. And that person, I believe, just needed help getting to the next spot where they needed to be. So like, it doesn't scare me, but I totally 100% believe in that shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Our senses are pathetic, like really. And there are so many dimensions that we don't even understand. So I think we would be really arrogant to say that this is it.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't believe in all the card reading shit and all that kind of stuff. Because
I should put my tarot cards on.
Yeah, like,
I was going to do
No, bring them out.
I've never been to one, and that stuff I don't truly believe in, but I do believe in, like, for sure, the afterlife and like souls out there searching for what they want to finish doing, for sure.
I think some people hang out with us too. Like I have, since he's passed, my grandfather's been with me. Like there's things that I've seen, and there's one incident specifically where it was just undeniable that we had that. So like, you talk about your dad, like in my mind, and again, your experience is yours and it's super personal, and I don't mean to encroach on it, but I hear that story and I'm like, bro, you think he's not watching?
Yeah.
Like, you think he's not flying in his own drone, like trying to follow along?
I love
Guaranteed
that.
he is.
I
Like,
love
guaranteed,
that.
right? Because I just don't think I don't think that's the end.
Yeah. I don't think so either. I think there are dimensions we don't get. If anyone's done any psychedelics, like you can't tell me there's not something else going on.
Yeah.
We have pathetic. We look through only our lens. Like even birds, they can see ultraviolet. Therefore, there's a color spectrum we can't see. So who's to say there isn't the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th dimensions that we. Who knows?
Yeah.
How much have you gone down that road? Like, you ever done DMT?
Never done DMT. Lots of mushrooms. Had a insane trip. I did a hero dose by myself, 6 grams, wound up in a mental institution. That was a hell of a trip.
They learned a lot there.
And then, ended up with drug-induced psychosis and then severe PTSD that I'm still coming out of in a lot of ways. Because I'll just sit there and just go down the rabbit hole of like, what is a microphone? Like, how is this real? I don't understand. And then the wires connect it and then they can hear me. But then, and like, I'll just start to micro everything. And it comes from the combination of PTSD, psychosis, and psychedelics, of just like questioning everything. Nothing's real, yet everything's hyper real, yet there's no middle ground. It just seems to kind of go one way or the other. Yeah. No DMT, no LSD, ketamine, or any of those things, just mushrooms. And yeah, I had like, as the doctors put it, my dam broke. Like, we can all tolerate so much.
Yeah.
And then my dam broke and I wound up in a mental institution for a week. And then I ended up coming back to Burlington to be with my mom to feel safe. And I was like, Everything Everywhere All at Once is playing in the movie theater. It's my favorite movie of all time. I've never seen it in the cinema. I'm going to go see it, but I'm going to go see it on weed, man. Wound up in a mental institution again because it just shattered my consciousness.
You broke that wall.
Yeah, broke the wall. Woke up in a mental institution, was like, ah, shit. And I thought I fried my brain. I was like, I'm done. And then the PTSD was a long road to recovery. And now, to bring everything kind of full circle, I ended up going to the mountain in Washington to see my friends, who Michael told them he doesn't need you yet, but he will. And when I was crashing so hard, hardcore PTSD, so scared of reality, I was like, I need to go to Washington. They came to me when I was tripping balls in the hospital. They came to me and there was like this weird glass of liquid, and they were these like blue liquid, like angels of sorts. And they're like, we can't help you here. Sorry, we love you. You are so loved, but you are here. You have done this and now you have to suffer through it. But hit us up when you're out. And when I got out, I reached out to them and was like, I need you. And they're like, we're flying you to Washington. And then lived on their mountaintop and got counseled, like, bless the health industry, what they can do, but to have like, I was yoga every day, massages every day, just talking every day ad nauseum with people who I'm friends with too, right? So there's a shorthand there and a place to feel comfortable. They saved my life. Like, I was suicidal, like on the verge of piecing out because this was too much. Reality was too much.
I do believe that microdosing of psychedelics is going to be the future, for sure.
Well, that's the funny thing. It grows neurons, and I've now started microdosing.
Yeah.
And I stick to a microdose. I'm never going more than.
Yeah.
But I also think like what I went through, like I had a lot of head trauma just playing hockey and football and all this stuff. And even as a baby, like I always had a goose egg on the front of my head from falling over. So it's like prefrontal cortex stuff, right? And I think taking 6 grams at a time, I think I faced everything I'm afraid of. I faced the other dimension. I think I died in that moment. I really do, in a metaphorical and literal way. Like I have all the signs of somebody with a near-death experience. So I was by myself. Who knows? But I think my cortex grew and made me a better human, making way better decisions. And was that the mushrooms or was it the experience after? We'll never know. But to your point, yeah, I think it's the future as well.
Yeah. I've been super invested in it like for like 7-8 years. When it was like the thing never to talk about.
Yeah.
And now it's like slowly getting there. Like government regulation and shit is what's holding them back, but it'll get there. It is the future for sure.
I don't doubt it. And it's like the oneness. We're just all one. Yeah. And it's like as soon as you do a psychedelic, it's so funny because I did them like, I don't know, like 20, 25 times prior to all of this, but I never did it with intention. Yeah. I just did it for fun. It was like, oh, cool, fun colors. Everything looks like gasoline, etc. And then I remember I hung out and did it with a friend of mine, and she was like, yeah, I do them therapeutically. And I was like, oh, no, I have a hardcore rule. Like, some substance abuse exists in my family, so I never drink alone. I never do drugs alone. It's a hard no for me. And she's like, I don't know. I do it therapeutically. You might want to try it. So I did just 1 gram when I was mowing the lawn, which is my favorite thing to do. It's like the most meditative. They used to call it a chore. I was like, I'm going to mow the lawn every day. This is awesome. So I did some mushrooms. That was the first time I ever did any substance on my own. And I walked with God. Like it was just so beautiful. I've never felt more loved. And for the first time, I wasn't doing it as a party drug. It was like to actually go kind of introspective. And then that's where I was like, oh, I'm going to go one step further and do 6 grams by myself in my trade. No, that was learned a lesson on that one.
I know we've talked about the DMT thing, and like he introduced me to like what guys were doing and like the Joe Rogan podcast and shit like that. And what worries me about that is the same as what happened to you, is that like I overthink things a lot when like I'm in a different space. So like the microdosing part doesn't faze me at all. And I totally understand it and I appreciate it and I believe in that. But like the DMT thing scares the fuck out of me, not for the fact that like nobody dies from doing that shit and whatever, but it can really fuck with some people mentally afterwards, where like you've hit a different place where like you've broken that wall or you've broken that dam. And that's what worries me, because I overthink shit like crazy. And I just like, I don't want to be in my head where like, I know a lot of people that get to that space and they love it and they can refresh with it, where I think I would be on the other side of that spectrum and I would like be over in my head on that.
Yeah. It's interesting to see that,
like you could sit back and chill with that, I think. Where
a lot of the time, man. But I mean, sometimes though, like, and I've had the shroom instances where it goes past your tolerance and you're not driving anymore. Like it's not you, it's not your conscious, it's not your like, it can take on its own life. So I think you got to be careful. And I think the lesson here is like from 1 to 7 is not the right, might be from 1 to 1.5 to maybe 2, and like just use caution, because like so many things that we take and that we do, if it can have positive outcome, it can have negative outcome. For every action, there's an equal, if not greater, reaction, right? And you have to kind of have that discipline when you go and try these things to try and learn about yourself, because they can also be super powerful tools for, like, you talk about your PTSD. You and I have a friend in common. I won't put him on blast on here, but he had a very similar experience. I don't think he talks about it, but his was so anxiety inducing that he didn't even know what anxiety was before that, and now he lives with it daily. So that led to him having to get treatment. He's on pharmaceutical treatment as well too, and he's just never found that balance again. Yeah. So we got to be really aware of the effect that these things are for real, and that wiring upstairs, that prefrontal cortex, that that can have the positive effect can also have the negative effect, and it's But at the same time, like, I also know guys, and I want to ask you about men's mental health in a second, because Jamie and I are it's at the forefront of everything we do. We're incredibly passionate about guys having the ability to talk about it, and it's okay to not be okay. I've seen that in that world, specifically guys with PTSD really have some incredible outcomes from the microdosing, and from, usually it's talk therapy is the balance with that. But the fact that guys are trying it is like, that gets me excited because I'm like, okay, so we're now having the conversation. We're not running towards a pill bottle, and we're trying to figure out if there's a way to do this, maybe even homeopathically. Like, that's exciting times, right?
And TRT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Big time.
Yeah, like that's, and Jamie and I have had this talk too. Like, we're in our 40s now, right? So we both, Jamie before me, but then I went and had a look at testosterone and had a look at, you know, the chemical side of anatomy, because we can go out and get, you know, the private side of the healthcare will do it a lot faster, and you can really figure out, you know, do your blood work. And we've had some guests come on here who do some incredible testing about anatomy and about everything that's going on in your body, and you can make those adjustments. And now what's cool is there's so much awareness on it that these guys are trying these great things to try and create therapies for themselves and balance. And, you know, Nelson would say if he was here, try and get those pillars all straight, right? It's mind, it's body, it's spiritual. And that's been a fun journey. So my question for you is, on the mental health side, how are you doing today? What do you do to stay in balance? Because outsider looking in, you're an incredibly awesome guy. You've got happiness, you've got, you know, energy. How do you create that? How do you balance that?
It's been an unraveling to get there, right? Because similar to what you just said, from the outside looking in, wearing that mask. Like, I remember I went to therapy for the first time. I always knew I was different and something was weird in me, but I never wanted to go to therapy because of what you said. I never wanted to be medicated. Like, I never wanted to be dulled. I never wanted to be dependent on something. And just, I'm not a big pharmaceuticals guy. All the power to it. If they work for you, terrific, great, use them, especially if a doctor's prescribing them. Hopefully they are. But for me, it scared me and I didn't want to do it. And I remember finding a psychoanalyst who was like, don't believe in it. You're safe. Let's talk. And it was just, that was the start of the process of just unraveling everything. And then I think it's just that what my 30s were, my wife is now she's in her 30s now, just getting into it. And I'm like, yo, I hope you have a better 30s than I did. Cause it was just the process from 30 to 40 was so incredibly painful. I liken it to a birth. Right. And it sounds cheesy to do the like rebirth thing, but my God, has it been for me.
Every woman right now wants to punch you right through the
yeah,
you don't know
it's
how it
nothing
feels.
like a fucking birth.
My wife's pregnant right now, so I'll hear about this in
we
September
gotta get
14th.
Yeah.
September
She's
14th.
like, you and your fucking man cold.
Remember when you said that? But it has been, like you said, from the outside looking in, right? It's removing the mask, facing everything that's wrong. And when I was kind of getting counseling about the trip I went on, it was like facing my own death, my mortality, loneliness, like the guilt and shame that I've just dealt with throughout my whole life. And now those things have been addressed. And I now address them daily, and they still scare the shit out of me. I'll still go through mortality spirals, but instead of being like, oh my God, I'm going to die, it's like, I'm going to die, so I better enjoy this.
Yeah.
And like the tech side of thing, I even was having meltdowns about AI and the implications of it. And are we going to have to choose if we're going to die or not? Like, that stuff freaked me out. But even that, I'm back in school, which I'll get to in a second, but I'm starting to learn to use AI, and I'm like, okay, maybe it isn't such an enemy, and like it says pretty cool things about me. So it's been this like learning of how to face fears, even the ones I didn't even know I had, and the trip had to show me by shoving in my face. And another thing you said in there too that really stuck with me was, during my trip, it was like I was held down at one point, and the mushrooms were saying, you think this is fun? Yeah, you think this is fun? You're going to keep doing things like substances for fun? And it was like, whoa, no, this is serious business. Like you said, like anybody who's just doing it to be like, I'm going to do some self-discovery, like all the power to you, be careful as hell. But to really get back to what you're saying, I remember sitting in that therapist's office and looking at this psychoanalyst and being like, with all the letters on his name, he was a professor at U of T. And I was like, oh my God, what a cool job, like helping people, going into the mind. And this is when I was 30, and I was like, I could never have that job. because I told you my high school career, I was a CD student. I only got into arts college.
Although you got a lot of fucking letters behind your name.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I had to go about it in a different way. Yeah, that was my cheat code.
Well played.
That's the lesson from today. You don't need the education. You can just add letters to your name, man.
$150.
Yeah. All my initials are doctor. No. So what happened recently after this trip and after recovering from PTSD, I was like, yo, I want to help people. And like, I've been an artist for 22 years. I've made a living doing it. It's what a gift. But I haven't done anything for anyone. Entertain people, sure. Yeah, there's frivolous economy in there. But it's like, I want to actually like help people. And I looked through the therapists I dealt with and the way that my friends in North Haven helped me in Washington. And I was like, I would love to be able to bring it all together and like take my arts background and use my right brain to help people. So I'm in Nova Scotia. And our mutual friend, James McBain, lives there. He went to Acadia. His wife is the head of communications at Acadia University. And she's like, hey, do you want to come work at Acadia? And I was like, I've never had a real job before. I'll do the interview process. So I did the interview. And I was like, I can't do this. So I turned them down. I was like, no, I can't be locked down. I can't like
work for the man.
Yeah, I can't working for the man. So I did some freelance stuff for them, and I'm like, they're like, you can have this fancy office. You can have like a gym membership. We're going to buy some equipment. I'm like, okay, you're sweetening the deal. And I was like, can I go to school? And they're like, yeah, you get benefits. Like if it's related to your job, you get 100% off. If it's something you just want to take, you get 50% off. I'm like, okay. So I went in and I was like, okay, I'm going to become a psychologist. Like I'm going to become that therapist. I'm willing to put in my, like, it's going to take me like 12 years probably because I can only take so many classes at a time. But I'm like, I'm going to do it. So I applied, and even the admissions people were like, looked at my grades. They're like, yeah. So you're probably going to have to take some like, these are like high school courses and then we'll get you in. But I was like, I'm going for it. I'm going balls out. Boom. I'm going to become a psychologist. So I applied and I got in. So this past year, going back to school, I'm in university for the first time at 40. All my classmates are 18. They're even younger than Miles. And I look around like nothing in common with these kids. But the beautiful thing was like we had a class in this last semester where they taught about schizophrenia, PTSD, psychedelics. And I sat there being like, these kids are learning about it. That's terrific. They have way more neuroplasticity than me. But I lived it. Like I've had schizophrenia. I've been in a mental institution. So what I'm so excited about is eventually getting my doctorate, moving in, becoming a therapist. And like I've lived this stuff. And then my background as a filmmaker and story, because narrative therapy is a thing. And like I have a background in narrative storytelling. So it's like bringing that into therapy, bringing psychedelics into therapy, which is going to happen, like you said. For sure. By the time I graduate, it will probably be like a legal instituted treatment for PTSD, or even just discovering oneself if administered in the right way. Yeah. So to your point, Chris, of like everything coming together and like my path, I'm sitting here going, whoa, like it is all coming together. And I want to spend the last half of my life helping people and being like a safe place to guide people back from where I came from. Because I sat there for those, especially the first year after the PTSD, after the trip. And I was like, I fried my brain. There's no way back from this. Like that regret in that moment. And if somebody could have just been like, yo, I've been through the exact same thing and I'm going to help you come back from it. That's all I needed. But there was nobody there to do that. And bless the healthcare system, they do what they can, but there's a lack of that like love. And I remember the psychiatrist they had help me through the government walked in and goes, why does it say analog across your head? Like immediately, like, what's wrong with this guy? Opposed to being like, how are you feeling? Like, what are you going through?
They're already judging you.
Yeah, they looked at me like I was a nutcase because I have a word written across my head, and I kind of am. But it was this thing that I saw my opening. I'm like, I can, and all of a sudden, I'm getting straight A pluses. This is a guy who was a C and a D student in high school. I just wasn't interested. I just didn't have drive, and now I'm addicted to learning. Every day that I have downtime from work or relationship, I'm studying every single day. I just a week ago finished my last exams for psychology in math. 40 years old, I'm back in math class because you need to learn statistics to do psychology, which I now understand why, but that doesn't make me like it anymore. But I just finished A+. I got 95%. And I'm like, who is this guy.
Right on, man.
And
Oh,
it's
boy.
addictive.
You just needed your inspiration and you found it.
needed
It took a bit, but
And I had to go through hell.
yeah.
But I now see my calling. I have my calling. And I love art. I had so much fun. And it's this beautiful transition, right? Because I'm working at Acadia University as their like local filmmaker. So I make those cute little documentaries I was making about people on the road. I'm making about students and faculty. They're doing really cool research. So like they're stimulating and actually really fun. They also give me carte blanche. They're like, make a film about this. Like it's a really great work environment. And my boss is my best friend from high school's wife. Like it's just, and so it's a taste of Burlington in there too, which is so, feels like home.
Yeah.
And so at the same time, I'm working at Acadia doing like filmmaking's kind of coming down, but then I'm also learning psychology at the same time. So like my next career is like birthing out of the old career, which is like magical. And I also just met my, baby, I'm tearing up for you, girl. Met my wife and like everything just started to click all
amazing,
at the same
man.
time. And I'm like, I just went through hell. And like part of me is like, I deserve this. And then part of me is like, did I die? So like there's still that part of me too that's like, is this heaven? Am I transitioning into like heaven? If this is like, there's just, I don't get it. It's and I got my baby on the way and it's like all these things at once.
It's your second calling. Your first one was to go be you, to go live your life and learn who you were. And now you're getting your second calling where you get to go help other people figure out what their calling is and who they are.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
what it
so
feels
fucking
like.
happy for you.
Thank you.
Well earned.
Thank you.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
You got to tell us how you met that lovely lady over there.
Well, it was a dark, stormy night. I was driving down the road. She needed a tire change. No, it was online.
Just kidding.
It was online. But it is still kind of a cool story. So I was in the Yukon. And I was up there shooting some stuff for a friend, Luke Legault. Do you remember him? I think he was actually in that law class you and I were in together.
Small world.
Yes. So I was up there shooting with him. He's a chef up in the Yukon. Crazy cool gig. He's opening a restaurant. So he flew me up there to make a film about it. So I went up, was shooting some stuff. And then I was flying back and I was like, oh my God, I'm 40 years old. I was 39 at the time, but about to be 40. And I was like, I have no prospects. I want a baby so bad. Like, I guess I got to just get back into the dating game. I don't want to.
Not because I want to be with a woman.
Yeah.
I wanted a baby.
Oh yeah, and everlasting love, right? Well, believe me, jaded beyond belief on that one. So I didn't think that one was coming. But somebody who would be a good mom, but I was all about the baby. I wanted a kid so bad. So I flew in, landed. I was like, all right, let's do this. Open up the apps. And this lovely woman had messaged me first, for the record. That rarely happens.
Can confirm?
Confirm. We got eyebrows.
Right.
We got eyebrows. Viking vibes, she wrote, because I had the mohawk with the long hair.
What was the name on the app? Because like, what'd you pick for the name on the app?
What's a good Viking
Sir
name?
was it Sir
Ragnos.
Reginald?
Yeah, Sir Ragnos.
Reginald.
She reached out first, and I wrote back because it said Calgary on her location. So I was like, oh shit, I probably matched with this babe while I was up in the Yukon. So I wrote her back. I was like, hey, yeah, you're super cool. That would be fun. But like, I'm back in Nova Scotia. She's like, well, I'm in Nova Scotia. It says Calgary because I'm moving home, but I'm only here for another week if you want to hang out. And I was like, yeah, getting back in the dating game. Just have a little fun. That'd be nice. She's a rocket. Why not? So we got together and our first date lasted 4 days. So we're like, oh man. And we would look at each other and just knew. Oof. I hated when fucking people would say to me, when you know, you know. I remember my mom being like, yeah, when you know, you know. And I'm like, Mom, I'm 38. Like at this point, but you do. Like we looked at each other and it was just like, we didn't say anything because it's inappropriate at that point.
It's only 4 days in. You don't want to look like that guy.
No, I don't want to be that guy. Played it cool. We just played it cool. So her 4 days were up. Her mom came in to drive her back to Calgary. So I was like, hey, let's get together and just have lunch with your mom. Like, it's not weird because this isn't going to be a thing. So it doesn't have to be awkward. I'm meeting your mom so early. So we got together. We just had a nice lunch. And that was it. She drove out of my life to Calgary and we stayed in touch. And then I wasn't ready to say goodbye. So immediately I was like, I'm booking a flight to Calgary. And then we'll say goodbye after that.
Like within a week or two?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right away. I was like, I'm not letting you go yet. Like, don't go chasing somebody. I just want a few more days with you.
Don't go apping it up yet.
Yeah, just yet. So I flew out to Calgary. I'd never been to Banff before. I've been to Calgary many times. So we went out to Banff and lived in the mountains for a week or weekend. It was just a long weekend. And it was so beautiful and lovely and wonderful. And then we're like, I'm just not quite ready to say goodbye again. And I was like, listen, okay, you had a bad experience in Nova Scotia. She was there with another relationship that ended. I was like, you didn't have the best experience in Nova Scotia. So how about I fly you to Nova Scotia and I give you like the real Nova Scotia thing. So we went to like my property and we stayed in the valley, like by Acadia.
And as her mom going, you crazy? Like, what are you doing?
My mom's
her
like,
mom.
oh yeah,
her mom. Like, fuck, I just came and picked you up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, her mom and her sister were like, be careful or we're going to lose you again. Like, please be careful. Like, have your fun, but your life is back in Calgary, like protecting her, of course. So we had fun in Nova Scotia, sent her on a plane back. I was like, I'm not ready to say goodbye yet. So I was going to Washington to see my friends for American Thanksgiving, which is right below Calgary. So I was like, yo, it's convenient. I'll fly to Calgary. We do a road trip, go see my friends, live on a mountain for a long weekend. That's fun. Turkey Day. Awesome. So we went to Washington. She met all my very close friends that are like family. We had a great time, came back. And then I was like, okay, this is going to be it. And then it was her birthday, December 17th. So I was like, this is possibly our only birthday we'll ever have from both of our sides. So I'm going to do the fly-in. So I flew into Calgary for 17 hours. Morning to night, we hung out. We did our thing. It was really lovely. And then we're like, okay, we planned. January 3rd is the breakup. We met in August. January 3rd is the breakup. I was like, I really want to show you Southern Ontario. This is my home. You showed me your home. It'd be really special if I could show you my home. So we hung out in Burlington and we went to Toronto. We did medieval times in Niagara Falls. She'd never seen it before. When Southern Ontario guys were jaded, Niagara Falls is pretty cool. Yeah. So we went down to Niagara Falls. We went up to my mom's in Elora, which was really nice. And then January 3rd came and it was goodbye. It was so sad. And we just were like, okay. The whole time, though, we were joking. Imagine you were pregnant. Oh, your breasts are kind of sore. Yeah, maybe you're pregnant. You're pregnant. So she flew away, gone. We said goodbye. We're doing the mature thing. We're ending this so we can both move on because I'm getting up there. And the next day I was driving to Quebec and I get a message. Yeah, tell me when you're available for a call. I'm like, okay, a stage 4 clinger. Jeez.
From the guy that flew into Calgary for 17 hours.
Why?
Yeah.
So she's like, yeah, let me know when you had time for a FaceTime. So I called her and she's like, I'm pregnant. We're not breaking up. I was like, so the day I flew in for her birthday, believe me, there was zero hesitation. I was like, we're doing this. So it was the day I flew in for her birthday. Happy birthday, darling. And yeah, so we were always joking when we went down to Washington. We're like, yo, let's just go down to Nevada and get hitched. So as soon as she called me to say she's pregnant, I'm like, well, I guess we're going to Nevada. So February 20th, we went and tied the knot with Elvis Presley as our officiant, sitting in the back of a pink Cadillac. And yeah, we tied the knot. We crunched the numbers. We'd only spent 28 days together at the time. Like we FaceTime every single day, getting to know each other, but in person, we'd only spent 28 days together. And we're like, we're doing this. And then, yeah, I flew out there last week. Finished my exams, flew out there, met her entire family in a weekend. They're so awesome. And then we drove here, meeting my entire family. And then we're driving to Nova Scotia to start our life together. And her family said the same thing, where it was like, this is your family now. I'm like, you are released. Go. And everybody just knows. It's right. And when incredible.
You know, you know. I was waiting for it.
I was ready to wring people's necks. I was like, yo, I'm too old for this shit. Like I'm tired of when you know. But
chase the baby and you got your soulmate.
You know.
That was the thing, though. Like I did the work. I stopped looking. I stopped pushing the string. I stopped trying so hard. And I focused more on like legacy and generations and like love. Like that unconditional stuff. And I did work on me. Oh my God, the 30s were painful. And I'm sorry to the people who were in my wake, but it's worth it. I made it. And now every day we've been driving, it's like, how is this real? Like we are getting to know each other. It's like,
and daddy's going to be a psychologist.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Our baby's going to be born into me being a doctor and being established in Nova Scotia and Jada and I being a couple. But like what baby's existing right now in is like a completely different world to transition into those things. It's magical. So, Chris, what are some tips for
So crazy.
being a dad to little girls, please?
So it's, I know it well. You're September, right?
September 14th.
Okay. So that makes you probably the first person we've had on this show who is a dad in waiting. It's coming. It's looming, right? So I have a few things, but I'm going to ask our esteemed co-host here. He's going to be a dad in a few months. Tips. Go.
You're never right. Just remember that. You're never right.
Damn it.
So it's the greatest thing ever. Like, and you've done some great things. This is greater. Promise. You're going to have emotions come out that you haven't had come out. I don't care about their journey in the 30s, the psychedelics, the highs and lows. It's a whole other level of paternal love. And it's the best. I mean, when you told me that, I'm like, bro, come on. Like, all the other stuff is great and it's impressive and I love the journey you're on, but that's the one where you're going to be like, that's some legacy shit. That's some life-changing shit. So I couldn't be more excited for you. And the fact that it's a little girl, I mean, I'm girl dad ×2. And one of my favorite quotes on that was from Kobe Bryant. And I know you're a big basketball guy, but he said, every man wants a son, but every man actually needs a daughter.
Oh,
one of my favorite quotes, right? Because it's just it'll evoke things in you that you don't even know are there yet. And
wow.
It's such a trip, man.
I believe it. I felt her kick for the first time just the other day. What a trip. That was better than any trip I've ever been on.
It's the greatest thing in the world, man.
Yeah. Magical. And my wife is so wonderful. We're going with Logan and with the Wolverine.
Okay.
That's pretty great.
Let's go.
She's a wonderful lady.
That's so cool, man. That's so cool. And so so you guys are headed back to Nova Scotia. You've got your homestead all set, right? It's the house you were talking about, or are we moving?
Well, we're keeping the homestead, but we ended up buying a house also near the university that's turnkey. Because the thing with the homestead, coming on 175 years old,
it's a project.
Needs a little bit of work.
Yeah.
I don't live there, the mice do, and I'm just their guest. So it's one of those. Whereas we wanted because also it's 2 hours from where I work at the university. So we did buy a home in town that's turnkey, cozy, insulated, brand new windows. It's mid-century, so it looks my jam, but it's all redone. We don't have to worry about mama can be comfortable. And then on the weekends, we go to the homestead. Only in Nova Scotia can you afford 2 homes.
You thought you've lived your life already, and now you're gonna have a baby. Life's changing, man.
Yeah, from 0 to 60, like the Cybertruck, boom to the floor. This is and to your point, it already feels, and I'm sure it's gonna be exponentially more, but it already does feel that way. Where I look at my life, I'm like, I've done some fucking cool shit. But when Jada told me she was pregnant, that was it. That was it.
Yeah.
And it feels like that mission. And a beautiful thing someone said to me, and like wrestling with that celebrity thing to kind of bring it full circle. I remember somebody saying, like, somebody wants to be celebrity so bad. Be celebrity to your family. And the way this woman looks at me and the idea of my daughter looking at me that way trumps any influencer, any fame, and that's where I look from moving from filmmaking into psychiatry. There's no fame in psychiatry and helping people and discovering human behavior like that.
Yeah.
I feel that love and support for the first time of having this base that I get to show off every day to those 2 women while I help other people. That's true fame and true celebrity.
It's the only people that matter, man. The only people.
Yeah.
When social media goes away, everybody else loses everything they thought they had. All you have is your family.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's you'll get these moments with your daughters, like I said plural, maybe that's
hopefully
foreshadowing, but and what's unique too is your relationship with each of your kids is going to be a little bit different. My youngest is just an absolute sweetheart. She's the most emotionally intelligent. She walks up to me and I see like she can see right through me. Like if I'll come home and I had stress, or I came home and I was whatever, she'll always look up and she'll call me on it. She'll like, Daddy, you look sad. Daddy, you look mad. And she'll always say that. So we're sitting here on a Saturday. I love my weekends with my family. That's my time. But I explained to her, Daddy had a friend and he was on a bit of a tight schedule. So I'm going to come in and do a podcast on Saturday. And she walks up to me this morning. She goes, I'm going to miss you. I made you a bracelet. Wear it on the podcast just so I can be with you. Yeah. Just on a Saturday morning, you know?
Well, thank you. What's your daughter's name?
Ella.
Thank you, Ella, for sharing your dad with me today. It means a lot.
It's the best, man. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then fast forward to future self, who's going to watch this episode at some point. And I will be remiss if I don't say, you have to tell us your UFO story. Just switch gears completely. I don't want to miss it. Tell me your UFO story.
Oh, please. Yeah. So I live in about 20 minutes from Shag Harbor, which is Canada's Roswell. So only legally documented UFO landing in Canadian history. And they still have UFO. I went to one last year, conventions there, and everybody kind of descends upon Yarmouth, Nova Scotia, which is just outside of Shag Harbor. So a friend of mine came to visit from Toronto and rented an Airbnb on the bay just over from mine. I actually don't know the name of it. I'm still learning the area. But anyways, we're sitting out in the back. And we're just sitting there chatting, and she was looking the other way, and I was looking out over the bay, and it was actually over the grass leading up to the water. All of a sudden, the sky lit up, the brightest light I've ever seen, but the ground didn't light up. And I was like, what in the fuck? Like, this doesn't make sense physics-wise. What the hell is this? And all of a sudden, these balls appeared, and it was like one big ball with two tails of balls coming off of it, and they're white, but the glow around it was red. And I was like, what in the fuck was that? And there was no sound. It was just this light that didn't touch anything else. And then all of a sudden, it kind of pulsed for a second, and then it just turned into smoke in the shape of the... And I was like, did you see that? And she saw the smoke. She's like, I saw smoke. I was like, describe the shape of the smoke. And it was in the same shape of the UFO. I have it tattooed on my leg, obviously, my whole story. I'm not going to be able to show it here, maybe.
Pants are too tight.
I'm a millennial. I still wear the tight pants. Everyone's like, yo, when are you going to go baggy?
You've been working those calves.
There you go.
That's cool.
Yeah, the circle with the circles coming off of it. So
crazy.
I don't know what it was. Everyone's like, oh, it's a flare. Maybe. I don't know. And maybe it was a flare. I don't know. But it was... And that was the thing was, I remember when I was with my friends kind of getting treated for PTSD, I remember being like, I'm afraid of aliens. I'm afraid of AI. I'm afraid of this. They're like, yeah, but you've never seen an alien. And I was like, I have seen an alien. And they're like, okay, so what was that like? I was like, it was fucking awesome. And they're like, use that, for your development of like, things are scary leading up to. They're not necessarily scary in the moment. And I have been like keying on that with like AI and what's coming and God knows what, if we're going to choose to die. And I'm kind of just trying to be like, in the moment, it won't be scary. That UFO wasn't scary. It was fucking wicked.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, fuck. Alien wants to come meet me, man. Take me with you. I'm okay with it. I want to learn new shit. I want to fucking experience that.
I want an iPhone 18. I don't want to go too far, a little conservative. Just keep like, give me the 8. Let's know what's next.
I think too that like we're at a time now where technology is going to shine a light on shit like that. Like we already see it now. Like they're having hearings at Congress where there's highly decorated military personnel laying out fact. And it almost can't be disputed. So that's going to be dope. We're going to find out what it is in this lifetime.
No doubt. Well, they just found biomarkers on one planet. I don't know the name of it, XTGZZ something. But they found biomarkers. So they found off gases of biologic life. So we might see soon.
It's ignorant to think that like we're the only planet with any life and that we're the smartest ones out there when you see all these fucking thousands of planets out there. Like there's zero fucking chance we're the smartest planet out there and the smartest race out there. Like there's no fucking possibility that we are.
No doubt. And I think it's all the above. I do think there are saucers, but I also think there's this interdimensional stuff.
That's what I was going to say. You're talking about senses.
Yeah. Aliens all around us right now, like touching, feeling, but they just have different layout than us. And
we're going to figure out how to transport people. Like it's going to fucking happen. Like give it 20 years. Like we're going to have that shit figured out where we're going to be able to just send people places.
Exactly. And it's all around us. It's all around. And there probably are UFOs, or maybe they're just fucking with us. Or maybe it's American government's toys. We don't know, but it's all out there. Yeah. It's just a matter of what we can see within our vision. And if you start getting freaked out, get off the internet. Because real life this isn't scary at all. And that was one thing that I really learned through my journey is like, once you start to kind of bring the locus of control in, it's not as scary anymore.
Right.
You know what's going to be great is your daughter's going to help you with that too. Like I have so many times where I'll go with my girls and it's just playing at the park and it's grassy knees and it's like, you know, push me on the swing. And it's like, it's just it brings you right back to the moment more than anybody else can. Cause it's like when they're kids, it's pretty simple at that age, right? Like, you know, it's a pretty basic, pretty fun, pretty carefree, and it'll help you with that.
It's a great thing.
Hanging out with my kids is my therapy for sure.
I've got 3 boys, like 5, 11, and 14. And like when you get home and the door closes, everything else out there doesn't fucking matter anymore. Like you forget about it all. Yeah. Work, life, politics, all the bullshit. Leave the news off the TV. Like all that matters is the people in your home. And fuck, man, it's the best feeling in the entire world.
How are 3 boys? That's intense.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I fucking prayed that the third one was going to be a boy, and my wife and her parents, they were hoping it was going to be a girl. But I was like, now that we have 2 boys, the third one would just be like so easy. Should I have probably had a girl? Probably. Like God probably should have got even with me a little bit, but I got super lucky having 3 boys, and it's the greatest thing in the world for sure.
Well, you 2 have perfect perspective between the 2 of you. That's really cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I always got asked that too when it was like our second. They're like, "Oh, do you want it to be a boy?" I'm like, "No, like it's gonna sound cliche, but like I want it to be healthy. Like that would be a blessing, right? And the rest is just like we'll fill it in."
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing getting older that is real perspective. You always hear in the media, it's like, well, at least I have my health. At least I have my health. And when you're young, it's like shrug. But when you start to get a little older, hitting that midlife crisis, wow, that saying has a whole new meaning. Because at any moment, it can go sideways. And that's been a big thing for me is like facing mortality, the classic midlife thing, not looking the same in the mirror anymore. And it's like, oh, aging is real. Because you can see it intellectually all you want. But until you emotionally start to engage with it, it doesn't exist.
And take advantage of those times, man, because like, you know, those times when you're like, you go home tired and like, you know, once you're done school and you're a doctor, like you're going to have those days you come home just like mentally drained and shit. But, you know, you read your kid a book and you're laying in bed and the kiddo's like, hey, like one more book, daddy, one more book. And you're like, fuck, like I want to go have my time and lay down in bed. But then you think about it for a second and you're like, fuck yeah, like I will read you one more book. Like put the time in, take advantage of those moments. Cause like, you're right, man. You never know when it's over, right?
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think they like to bring the 2 ideas together. I think kids have a connection to whatever that other thing is, that other dimension. There's a really cool story that happened when I was going to the McBain's house and their daughter, they were going to buy me a Christmas gift because I always borrow Robin, my boss's calculator for my math class. And they were just getting tired of it. So they're like, let's go get Uncle Reggie a calculator. And it's like, okay, that's really lovely. So she took her daughter, who's 6 years old, and they got the calculator. They're walking through the department store. And she's like, wait, I have to get Uncle Reggie these socks. And Robin was like, these socks don't make any sense. And she's like, trust me, Uncle Reggie will think they're hilarious. She's like, okay. So she bought the socks, bought the calculator. So then Robin had me over and I was about to tell James, her husband, and Robin that pregnant. And she's like, okay, wait, we just want to make sure we get you your Christmas gift. So I open it, calculator. Oh my God, so cute. I'm going to use it. Great, A+. And then I open the other thing. She's like, Ray insisted to get you these. I'm getting goosebumps. Number 1 dad socks. This happened. This is real. And then I told them Jada's pregnant.
That's
what?
So cool.
What?
So cool.
They're tapped into something that I'm sure we are at one point. And then we grow up layers upon schema and, you know, views of the world, perspective, lenses, and they're tapped into something magical. So to your point, I'm so excited to have a little conduit in my house who's connected into something that, you know, I've let go and we all let go. Yeah. But it's like, I think that's really beautiful. And that moment with Ray was like,
so cool, right?
It's powerful shit.
Who would have thought fast forward and like
Socks
and a calculator is like the gift. You're like, yeah, I got it.
Well, that too.
Times change.
Exactly. That too. And I was actually saying that to my mom right before we came here. She was divvying out socks she bought at Costco, giving my wife some. And she's like, everybody this Christmas is getting socks. I'm like, wow, you hit an age where you're like, sweet. Yeah, no, I'm running out of socks.
Needed it.
Yeah.
Needed it. Fresh ones feel better.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So that's, so have you thought about the kind of dad you want to be?
Great question. The thing I'm worried about is taking all these psychology classes and becoming a psychologist and over-analyzing, over trying to hit those markers. Because I'm taking developmental psychology. Like, how could one not bleed the two together? And I don't want to be a robot. I want the little one to be able to have a regular existence. Like, my parents weren't psychologists. They just did the best they could. Are there things that I wish they did differently? Of course there are. But I keep also trying to tell myself that no matter, even if I did hit every marker from the textbook, like, there's still going to be something that she's going to come back to me one day and be like, why didn't you do more of this? And it's like, I did the best I could. So I want to do the best I can. I want to make sure I'm present. I love work. Like I said, I'm addicted to knowledge and learning right now, but I need to make sure that I'm making a divide between the two, to your point of like, the scale needs to lean this way. I can always just go back and pick up classes and do things a little slower. So I want to make sure I'm present. I want to make sure I'm there. I want to make sure I don't bleed too far into the clinical side of things and just keep it more right brain, like more art and like love and fluid. But also, like, I'm picking up some of the developmental games and stuff to be like, okay, we're at this stage now. We can see if she has theory of mind and like, see if she,
without being the helicopter dad.
Yeah, don't want to be that at all. And that was an interesting thing. They often have guest psychologists come into the university, and one of them came in and was like talking about, I forget her initial thesis, but she got into resiliency. And being like, okay, so we just discovered this thing that with resiliency, if you're able to, in a safe place, allow your kids to go to the park alone. And I was like, yo, I was born 1984. Like, my parents would literally open the door and be like, go.
Yeah. When the streetlights come on, come home.
Classic.
Yeah.
And true. It's cliche for a reason. That was how it was. And I actually asked her, I was like, I'm from the 80s. Like, does that not mean that I'm more resilient? And then the big question was like, are we getting more fear because of less resiliency, or are we getting less resiliency because of fear? Like, where is this going? That this, like, is it social media with exposure thing? Like, it was just a really fascinating conversation because resiliency, anti-fragility, these things are starting to come back into the zeitgeist. And I'm like, latchkey kids, to go even a generation before us, like, theoretically, shouldn't they have more resilience than all of us?
Yeah.
Like, so I just think like a study of all of these generations could really yield some interesting results of resiliency and what this means to us, because that does scare me, this idea of helicopter parenting, but then also being like, well, I walk to school alone every day starting in like grade 1. Maybe my kids should, but I know that's not socially acceptable anymore, and I don't want child protective services, nor do I want my child hurt. So it's finding that balance, which isn't. So how have y'all, we're of the same ilk in terms of age, so how have y'all dealt with that specifically?
So I grew up the same as you. It was go, learn, and grow. I try not to listen to the narrative of control, and like right now, like everything in the media is like trying to control you and trying to tell you how to do stuff and trying to fearmonger you. So I try and let my kids still grow on their own and teach themselves and give them a little bit more reach than probably most parents. But yeah, there is still that you can't just let them go. You know what I mean? So, my oldest is 14. Fuck, when I was 14, I'd come home at midnight and like my dad really didn't give a shit. And he wasn't even around when I was like 14, where now like my 14-year-old, I won't let him go out till midnight and just walk the streets or whatever. Like, still got to be home by 9:30. And, his mom, she checks in with him a lot more than I do. I'm okay to give him the reins. Like, hey, like, I know you're in the neighborhood and you're just out with your buddies, like go do your thing. But she'll check in with him quite a bit more. So we're not the helicopter parents for sure, but we've got friends that are at that level where they're helicopter parents for sure. And they're afraid of everything because they're told to be afraid of everything. It's like, well, how are you letting your kid develop and like be his own person and like learn how to deal with situations then if you're over controlling them and fear mongering them, right? That's a tough one.
What about with you, Chris? With
I think
girls?
It changes at different ages. Yeah, the being girl thing is, that weighs heavy on me just because, I'm I want to protect them. I don't wear, glasses that would tell me that those people aren't out there. I know that things happen. So you do go at it a little bit differently. As their age has progressed, though, things have started to, I think that's natural. You start to give them more freedoms and give them more leash, I guess, to go out and be a real person, a real individual. Probably the one tip I would say is we've kind of adopted the technology. Like, every single parent on our street, and we're so blessed to live on, like, I'm sure there's lots of great communities out there. Mine's one of them for sure. Like, we all look out for our kids, and we've got great friends, and they've got their little friend groups. So we just check in, man. We just, like, everybody's got a phone in their pocket, right? My kids don't. I didn't give them devices, and probably will hold on to that as long as I can. But, if the parent they're headed to is over here and we're over here, we just text. We'll say, hey, they're headed your way. And then we'll get a text back 15 minutes later saying they're here safe. And that's it. And that's as, like, checked in as we are. And then we got my oldest, Lucy, who's turning 10 in September. She has a bracelet that has one of those air tags in it. If we're going somewhere where we know it's going to be crazy busy and there's going to be thousands of people, we just ask her to put her bracelet on, just so we can check in and try not to be helicopter parents, like trying not to, watch where she's going, but it's a little extra safety layer that makes us feel better about it.
I think the biggest thing is like teaching them to have respect for people, teaching them to respect themselves, have some boundaries, and just to have some common sense. Because like so many kids these days are brought up with like next to no common sense because they're just not allowed to learn and grow, right? So I think that's big. Like teaching your kid to have an open mind and give them a little bit of space, but teach them about respect for themselves and for other people. And they'll avoid situations that should be shitty situations. Now, for sure, there are some super shitty people out there that do some really bad things, but overall, the world isn't that way. And we're programming our kids to think that the world is that way, which is the sad part.
I couldn't agree more with that. And that's what I was saying earlier, that like once you start to distill the world down, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's all this stuff that the media tells us that's out there that's exists because it's in the zeitgeist for a reason.
Yeah.
But it's not as pressing as they say. And I love the parent, because I thought you were going to say they have a device in terms of leaning into technology, but I love the parental communication. But that leads me to the thing that I'm actually more afraid of. I feel like the child stuff will be more intuitive, and I love the idea of finding that workflow that works. But what actually scares me the most is that I'm very heterodox and like iconoclastic. I'm actually more worried about dealing with other parents because I am a bit of a weirdo, and I am like, I have the way we will want to do things, but I understand that there is a community. So especially with you, Jamie, like you said, there are some parents that want to do it this way, and you'll say, but then your kids aren't learning. So are you really having these conversations with people, and like, how do you navigate? Like, do you have people coming down on you being like, you shouldn't be doing that? And like, how do you navigate that?
No, I'm sure that some of that is said behind my back. None of our friends would say it to me for sure. But like we're lucky. Like our kids are really good kids. So if our kids were the shitheads in the neighborhood that were running around knocking on people's doors at 11 o'clock at night, which like there are, like my kids have friends that are doing that kind of stupid shit sometimes. Then I'm sure I'd get some of the flack, but like my kids aren't doing that kind of stupid shit. Like they're taught respect and when we've got buddies that come over to our house, like it's, hey, Uncle Matt, like my kids are brought up to like talk to people properly and thank people and approach people properly. So, I don't think anybody would have the balls to say something to my face about it. Cause I don't really hold back. I'm a pretty open book. But I also wouldn't go to those parents if their kids are out there doing stupid shit and they're raising their kids their way. Like I'm not going to go to them and tell them I think they're doing something a shitty way. I just try and get my kids to see the world from a different place.
Right. And that last part was what I was going to say is you'll find your people, and your kids will help you find your people, because what happens is like the Karens who are the first at the PTA meeting to complain about everything, those kiddos probably aren't going to jive with my kiddos because they live in different worlds, right?
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is as you go through the school system and sports and social and all that kind of shit, your people tend to come out of the woodwork, and you'll find that. Like you'll find friends you don't even know in 4 years from now will become some of your best friends, and it'll happen through your kids because that becomes the common thread. And I know the kind of guy you are. Like it's one of those things where you're going to want what's best for your kids, and somebody else is going to want what's best for their kids, and you're going to look at that guy across the table and go, "Oh, you're good people."
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, now you're like in this, community where you have a goal. It's to raise great kids, right?
And there is no right answer. Like you got to do you. As long as you and the missus are happy and you guys agree on how you guys are going to parent the kids, that's really all that matters. Because there is no right answer. There are some wrong answers for sure, but there is no right answer. Lots of people's kids are going to grow up to be great people, and they were all brought up in different ways for sure. So you just have to do what's authentic to you and the missus, and as long as you guys agree on that, that's the biggest thing.
I really appreciate that.
And stay tight.
Yeah.
You and yours can take on the world. You just got to stay tight.
Communicate.
Yep.
I love that. I was a little worried, just wanting to have babies so bad, and dating younger was freaking me out. Just generational gaps, and I found an old soul. So all those things were kind of put to bed.
So cool.
And we do feel that like bond and similar idea of the world, which I think is so advantageous. And I was worried that wasn't going to materialize for me. And it feels really good to think I was able to find my person. And I love the idea of our family being able to find satellite families. I hadn't thought of that. That's a great...
It'll happen, man. That's a beautiful thing. Well, wish you the best on all that, man. And obviously you guys have friends here anytime you're in town.
Thank you. I'll take you up on that.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Timing worked out awesome, man. You're swinging through. That's
seriously.
Cool.
As soon as I saw what y'all were doing, I was like, oh, I want to be a part of that. I'm in Nova Scotia. And then I saw what was happening. I was like, if he has just the littlest window, because we're gone. We got here last night. We're gone Monday morning. So thank you for making time.
Thank you for making that.
I really wanted to be a part of it. I love what you're doing. I think it's super cool. I got Burley Life tattooed across my stomach. I'm a Burlington guy. So when I saw that you're like repping Burlington and then now the dad thing that I'm getting into, I was like, I want to be a part of that.
Oh, you are.
So thank you.
You are a part, man. I have 2 more things I want to ask you. The first of which is we have a segment on this show where we ask all of our guests to bring a dad joke. This is a very special one for us because we have a new sponsor that I would like to plug, which a keen eye would show that we've had their product on set this entire time. We are so grateful to Wolf Blass and the team there. We're new. We're just starting out. We don't know who we are. All this takes money and it takes support, and they stepped up. So I want to talk about the 2 products that are in front of you. We've got a bottle of their Cab Sav. We've got a bottle of their Sauvignon Blanc over here. Please try them. Please support the people that support you. And without a further ado, dad joke.
Okay, I have 2.
Oh.
I wrote the first one. The second one I wish I wrote. So the first one that I wrote is, what do you call an elderly person who lives by the pyramids? Old geezers.
That's good. You wrote that one?
I was running one day and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, genius. And I never thought I'd have such a great audience to give it to.
There you go.
Oh, now it's out in the world.
The other one is my favorite piece of wordplay, and I love wordplay. So how do you titillate an ocelot? You oscillate its tits a lot. I wish to God I had written that one, but I heard it through the grapevine. So
That's great, man.
That's one of the best ones for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And before, they're actually both pretty good. Nicely done. And shout out to our sponsors. You got a couple of good ones. 2 for 1 deal.
This hockey season, pick up something to celebrate the puck drop. Grab Wolf Blass Yellow Label Cabernet Sauvignon, now only $17.95 at the LCBO. Why settle when you can soar? Wolf Blass Yellow Label.
Also, to always want to open up the time for you to talk about anything you got on the go that maybe you didn't mention, anything you want to plug, any shout outs to anybody awesome. The mic is all yours.
Where can people find you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, people can find me online. I've become similar to what you were saying, how social media kind of starts to drift. Since meeting my wife, it's been, and school. School is taking up all my time that isn't relationship based. And like, I'm finding it difficult to do social media anymore. And that's been fascinating just from a psychological point of view, where I used to get so much, gusto from creating and doing, like the connections I made on there, which are I hold very dear. That I miss, but social media is starting to drift away a little bit for me. I'm still at Reggie from the Road on, I think, everything, definitely Instagram. I'm trying to post more, but it's getting hard. It's getting hard, and like real life is starting to bleed in. Check out Acadia University. I do a lot of their content and guide a lot of the students in terms of what they're making. And then, yeah, you can just find me just in real life is the best at 905-599-7216. Shoot me a text. That's what I said when I got off social media-ish.
You're here for people.
Yeah, I said that to everyone. I'm like, just because I'm getting off social media, like I do not have my notifications on for any social media. I check it when I want, and I don't check my messages. And I made sure to say that to all my people. But I gave my phone number. Like, if you want to be human friends, we could totally be human friends. Some people took me up on it, which was really cool. The bonds that I made with those people are so precious and so dear. And that's the hard part about stepping away from social media. That's really hurting. But real life is just getting so intoxicating that it's like the scales tip and evolution. Yeah. And I hope to go back to it. Maybe there's a day where I can kind of marry psychology once I have the more letters to my name and marry that to Instagram and social media. But for now, I am definitely focusing on that. Big up to Burlington. Like, this is where I was born and raised, and it was like painfully boring in the best way. Like, what a place to grow up. I love this city. Big up to all my friends. Like, I'm still like a lot of those Nelson guys, like I'm still hanging out with and we still talk to. So it's like the bonds of being raised in such like an awesome suburb of just where you have everything and just abundance and contentment was really special. So yeah, I got Burley life instead of thug life across my stomach. I'm a Burlington guy till the end. And big up to you guys. Thank you for doing this and giving a platform for like really positive masculinity and just a cool place to be. I saw you from afar and was like, I want to be there.
Thanks so much for coming on, man. It's been awesome to meet you.
Yeah,
it's been great.
So happy to have you, man. Congrats on all the success, man.
Let's not make it another 25 years.
Yeah, right?
We're coming out east anyways. We're coming out east.
Yeah, we're coming out soon. I'll tell you.
We'll tell you
if you actually are.
Yeah, we are. We'll tell you off air.
To come.
Thanks, man.
Pleasure.
Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.